there's dots on the graph, that means you have to put all those dots in for the domain.
Because you have finite numbers. Here they're infinite. Between -1 and 0, you have infinitely many real numbers. You can't present them in any other way but interval. But these are finite. You cannot all of a sudden say that the function exists at -3, because the function does not exist at -3.
Yeah.
But here the function exists everywhere between -2 and 4, so then therefore you have to use the interval notation.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, now I got that.
Perfect.
So if
Yes.
it was a open point,
Yes.
you would use parentheses, right?
Yes, yes. So if I have, for example, something like this, let's say this is at -2 and this is at 4, then the domain of this function would have been open parenthesis, in other words, -2 comma 4 with a bracket. Anything else? Okay, so let's finalize this with a word problem. We can choose any problem. The hearing impaired Americans drew my attention because of the graph. I thought it was interesting, but you can choose any other problem if you'd like.
What page is that on?
The next one, 33.
33. Okay.
Yeah, we are still trying to finish R.3 before we move on to R.4. Next page, 33. So hearing impaired Americans, so 60 on 33. Do you have other questions for me, anyone? Don't let me move on if you have questions, please. Okay, the following graph approximates the number n in millions. I take notes. N in millions. Of hearing impaired Americans who are X years old, age. The equation for the graph is, of course, n of x, negative point, I think I see 4 zeros. 65 x cubed plus 0.0072 x squared minus 0.133, I think, x. Correct me again. Keep in mind that I am not a robot and I can make mistakes. I've already proved that successfully. Use the graph to determine the domain of n. So the domain is definitely age, so it cannot be a negative number, so it's somewhere between 0 and they give us this value. They say 92.3. So the domain of this function is between 0 and 92.3. In part B, this is part A. Part B, let's see what they want. In part B, they want use the graph to determine the range. So here's the range from the lowest y value, which is obviously 0, going up to 6 in millions. Number of hearing impaired Americans in millions, 6. So from 0 to 6, and I'll put in parentheses, in millions. Part C. If you were marketing a new type of hearing aid, at what age group, expressed as a 10-year interval, okay, would you target advertisements, and why? So let's suppose we have our own business and we create hearing aids. So this many, I don't know again if you can see. Let me just create a quick copy. Okay, so I'm going to say intervals of 10 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm not there. It should be 9, but that's okay. So between 0 and 10 years old, the maximum that I can get is 2 million that we can sell. Between 10 and 20, my numbers are not perfect. They're not completely correspondent to the graph. But this is the thinking behind it. Okay, here we have, let's say, 1 million on average. Here we have on average, let's say, 3 million. Here, let's say, on average, we have 4 million. So which target age would you trigger to get the most sales possible for a new product, for a new hearing aid, assuming much better than everything else? So which population, meaning which age group, would you target to get the most profit within an age group? What do you think? Between which age and which age? Anyone?
It'd be from 20 to
you will definitely target the 60 to 70
yeah.
for the maximum possible number of sales. You're not going to target between 0 and 60, maybe between 50 and 60 potentially, but that's the biggest, top target population for the maximum number. Or you could say I will target everyone so I can sell as many as possible. But when it comes to the 10-year interval, if you were to choose, you will definitely choose between 60 and 70, where is the peak? The peak number. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So I will definitely say between 60 and 7 years old. I'm going to say 7 years young. Very good. Does it make sense? Everything okay? Any questions? Okay, so I guess we can move on. Our next section deals with linear functions, slope, and word problems. So R.4, ready? I'm sure you remember all this, but let's go over it and some problems. So R.4, I'm just going to write lines and linear functions. So let's refresh our memory a little bit on, I just want to see which page am I on. I'm on page 6. So let's refresh our memory on, first of all, the equation, the definition of the slope, which is rise over run, which means the difference in y values, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is the same with what we discussed even today, the average rate of change between 2 points. Then we have the equation, so this is the slope. Then we have the equation which is y equals mx plus b. Anyone remembers what does this represent?
A linear first.
Yes. So what we call it is slope-intercept form. This is 0 comma b, which represents the y-intercept. And of course, this is the slope. We also have y1 minus y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, where x1, y1 is a point, given point, and the slope, of course, is here. So therefore, this is called point slope form. So keeping those in mind, so let's quickly go over. So now I'm on page 44. If you'd like to jump to at the top, you can just type in 44 and enter, and it will take you directly to page 44 if you have the multimedia library up. Again, I selected few examples that I like to go through and go over, but it's up to you. Feel free to select whatever else you want. I selected number 1 because we are asked to graph, and I selected number 4. So in 1, on 44, we're asked to graph x equals 5. Well, this is a vertical line. It indicates position, not altitude. So if it indicates position, all I have to do is just graph at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is x equals 5. And it's a vertical line. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. Now we want to graph y equals -2, which gives the altitude. So number 4 on 44, y equals -2, which is altitude, not position. So it's a horizontal line. And the slope of a horizontal line is 0. So at -2, here's the graph. Y equals -2. It shows altitude, not position. But now if you want to select, please feel free anytime. Now if we want to look at 24 on page 44, that is 2x plus 2y plus 8 equals 0. And again, I'm asked to graph. So stop me if you have questions. Anyone? Any questions? Anyone? So first of all, remember, I always have in the back of my mind factor simplify, factor simplify. I will simplify by 2, dividing both sides by 2. So then I have x plus y plus 4 equals 0. I will not solve for y. We're not using the slope to graph. That's not required. It's a waste of time. So I need to find the x and y intercepts. I always look for the x and y intercepts for any graph, for any function or not. I will always look for the x and y intercepts. So keeping in mind that we just reviewed vertical lines and horizontal lines, can anyone give us the equation of this line? And somebody else, if you'd like, the equation of this line.
Wouldn't x be equals -4?
Yeah. X is -4.
So we'll get back to that in a moment. Can anyone give us the equation of this line? So just don't look at this for a moment. Can anyone give me the equation of this line? It's the altitude. So what is the altitude here?
0.
Very good. So the equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. This is position. So what is the equation of this line, which is the y-axis?
X equals 0.
Excellent. So now we know what we're going to do. We're going to set x equals 0 to find the y-intercept. I covered it because it's 0, so I move y to the other side, and I get -4. So 0, -4 will be 1 point. For the other one, I said y equal to 0. I cover it. X plus 4 equals 0. I move 4. And yes, I get -4. So -4 comma 0. Last time, and I want to caution you, I have seen, and I will erase it, I have seen X and Y intercepts. Last time on the quiz, someone wrote this. You cannot combine something that you get from a point with something that you get from another point and say, that's my X and Y intercept. So please do not do that. Because that's not the case. They are totally different. You cannot combine a coordinate from one point with another coordinate from another point. Okay, so coming back and knowing that 0, -4, and -4. 0, 0 for x, -4 for y. -4 for x, 0 for y. At this point, I will connect and extend and put arrows. And at the same time, I will write the equation that I graphed, like I did everywhere. So this is x plus y plus 4 equals 0. You can write it anywhere, but you have to write it somewhere, so we don't forget what we graphed. So that's how we determine the x and y intercepts. Okay, so let's look at 33. Any questions for me? Any questions? So let's look at 33. 33 is telling us that the y-intercept is 0, -6, and the slope is 1/2. It's asking us to write the equation of the line. So as we reviewed quickly, we know that if I'm given the y-intercept, which is 0, a number, 0, a number, this is -6 in our problem, and I'm given the slope, which is 1/2, I should be using the slope-intercept form because it's the easiest of the two. It doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal, though. So then I have y equals 1/2 x minus 6. And that's done. However, if I'm given, like in 30, if I'm given the slope equals -3 and a point 5, -2, I don't recommend you in a roundabout way determine the y-intercept. There is no need. There is absolutely no need. We have a very straightforward equation that allows us to find the equation of the line, which is the point slope form. The point is x1, y1, so x1 is 5, y1 is -2, and the slope is -3. So now I perform all these operations. So I have y minus -2, so this, oops, that's not good. So I have y plus 2 equals -3 and x minus 5. Yes, I have to distribute and subtract 2. Combine like terms, and I get this. Yes, please, anytime. Yes, any question, please.
So, like, from the beginning, where it's y minus y1, on the equation you wrote y plus 2, wouldn't it be -2?
That's why I put it here, so I don't, so that's why I'm lazy. I don't like nested parentheses, or I don't like to write this. So
Yeah, no,
it's
I got
yeah, it's easier for me, but you don't have to use this method. The opposite of -2 is 2, and then -5. So I don't have to write it twice. Once with parentheses and then without. So I just write the numbers underneath and then move forward with that. You do not have to use, you're not obligated to use any of my methods.